Okay, I'm going to introduce now here a new journal series, a new like journal cast where I read a journal and chat about it, and it has a consistent-ish theme and stuff like that. And that theme is very different from things I've posted in the past, historically, lately. The topics that I actually I don't even have a consistent theme on this page. Almost certainly that hurts my viewership. I really don't care. I just talk about what I want to talk about, and I don't want to talk about this at all. But it's very different, and I feel like I should. I'm doing a I'm doing a really bad job of introducing it. Okay, let me start over. I'm going to set sort of a scene, a context of what this is, what this series will be. In July of 2006, I started keeping a journal, like a diary, like Dear Diary stuff. And I remember my first entry, the bed I was in, the house I was in, the window I was looking out, what I wrote about, the computer, which is just in a closet over there, the little laptop from 2006, the little gateway laptop. I remember all that clearly, but I started that day keeping a journal, maybe 500 words a day, something like that, for years. I just rarely missed a day. Maybe there's a day or two a year that I would miss, but for years I kept that thing. And then I became a professor in January of 2015. I start my career. Now, I've had jobs along the way, but you don't treat a job the same way as you do a career, where you're really trying to make something of it. You're trying to be successful, and you're trying to do it in the best way that you can. And so that was, again, January 2015. I sacrificed my life for this thing, and I just kind of waking, not every waking minute, but it was probably 14 hours a day on average, 7 days a week. And yeah, holidays would come up, something like that, where I might work less. But I was working 365 days a year. And I stopped writing for a year and a half. I stopped writing completely. I just didn't. I had maybe 2 hours a day. But that's not how attention works. Serviceable hours and free time, very different things. I come home from work and I just sit and find a void, like an abyss to gaze into lifelessly and sort of recharge and start the next day. But I was thriving. I was finding my footing, my momentum, and my career was really developing, and that was exciting for me. And then in September of 2015. So I'd been 2016. I'm sorry, September of 2016. So I've been at this for like a year and 9 months. I started to develop these symptoms. These. I didn't think anything of it. Like, oh, whatever, it's just something weird. I'm distracted with work. And then in October of 2016, a student took me from class to the emergency department. Um, it was bad, and when I was going, I was in kind of good spirits despite these horrible symptoms, and like, what the hell is happening? And despite that, I was making little jokes with the student, and because what I thought was, I'm going to go to the emergency department, whatever we call emergency room. We go to the ER, and they're smart there. I mean, they're talented, and there's billboards all over that talk, dignity health, and we care, and we put the patient first, and we're family. All of that should be blood red flags that they have to say it. But my assumption, my understanding, my perspective going into this was like, you know what? These people are really smart. This is what they do, and they're going to care, and they're going to fix it. And a week from now, maybe it'll take a couple weeks, something like that. But here, pretty soon, I'm going to be back on my march of progress. I'm going to be very productive, but that wasn't the experience I had. And so I show up, and first it's just okay. So in 2016, now the whole world, or at least like all of the US over, is just one giant homeless encampment with tents everywhere and like waste disposal problems. But for reasons I'm not qualified to comment on, whatever political explanations, and I have no business commenting on where this came from. But back then, really where you would find homeless people in Stockton was emergency departments. And they were just in there waiting, and kind of like, they've never heard of a shower, and it's very unfortunate that they found themselves in those circumstances. But for me, I walked in, and it's like coming into this like bus station that's just gross and stinks and is overpopulated. And but that I thought this was going to be a one-time experience. I'm like, what? This is an interesting encounter, and I'm going to get to tell stories about this, and it'll just be a bad memory that becomes a funny memory later. But then when I encountered the physicians I encountered, they weren't smart, like at all in this. They didn't understand health and bodies, and they certainly didn't care. And maybe they were talented at other things, golf or calligraphy or some sort of hobby, an instrument or something. They weren't talented at this, but they just really didn't care. And it was, all right, let's get you in, let's get you out, let's assign some billing codes. And so you get the bill, like, why am I billed this much money? Well, I spent time with you. Yeah, but I spent time with you too, and I did more for you than you. Like, I was thanking you and making you feel good about yourself. I did more for your health and well-being than you did for mine. I mean, if we're going to be objective about it, and we could probably get like blood panels of some cortisol and whatever, and I did more for you, and I didn't send you a bill. But that was a one-time experience, and to me, it didn't. My heart was beating with hope still afterward, even though it didn't do anything. It didn't help me. The meds and none of that did anything. Maybe 5 days later, 4 or 5 days later, I'm in another emergency department. The same student took me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. For the student, I think took me like 3 times. It was staying like through the night at these places that again just smelled like piss, sort of like piss and BF, and for maybe dangerous for her there. But I'm forever grateful for this person for doing that. I didn't have a car. My second experience was the same as my first. I go in thinking I'm going to encounter smart people who know more than I do about body. And like, I'm a professor. I teach physiology and epidemiology. I have a PhD in this very related field, and I'm publishing in this. While sitting in emergency department waiting rooms, I submitted 2 papers for publication. I finished my revisions and submitted these papers for as I'm first author on, and this was about trauma medicine. One of them was a treatment of rib fracture patients, and the other one was about billing. And I'm looking at ICD codes and how to save money on billing and stuff. I'm submitting these. Both of those went to, if anyone cares, into the journal Pain Medicine. I submitted those while sitting in waiting rooms. But this kept happening, appointment after appointment, EDER, right after ER. The same experience where I'm encountering people who don't know anything and just don't give a shit. And like, what is that? This is not what I expected. This is not the US healthcare system that has a reputation that I trusted and believed. And so enough of these appointments started going by, and I decided, if I'm going to keep my wits about me, if I'm going to keep my mental health, I need to start writing again. I need to pick up my diary and start chronicling this experience, my journey through the healthcare system, and the little observations I'm making along the way, little profundities about how people reason and how people justify their behaviors and what this is like, and maybe how to navigate. And so I start writing these little diary entries again. That was October 2016. And, a couple of months go by, and I'm collecting a lot of these things. I've been writing a lot. And so I decided I'm going to publish a book called In Sickness. And it's going to be a collection of these experiential diary entries, again, chronicling my journey. And I never published the book. I never got around to publishing it for reasons we don't have to discuss here. Maybe at some point I'll talk about it. But let me share with you where I posted a bunch of these online, because I did post a number of these little diary entries online. So if you go, okay, let me go here. If you just go to CourtneyJensen.com, this website, and me.com, right? And you scroll down. Okay, first off, this minor mensch, that's where, if you see, July 22, 2006 through whatever, and I posted a bunch of these. These have been online for 15 years, these things. And it's me in my 20s, those ones. I took a ton of them down because it's me in my 20s. But I'm never going to announce these. I don't have plans to narrate these, but these I do have plans to narrate. That's what this channel is. And there's what I've posted online is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've posted 9 of these online, and you can see they range from 2016 to 2019. If you click on them, this little PDF comes up, and you can read these things. They're all just a few pages. And so I will read them, narrate these things, and that's part of what I'm going to be doing here. But another part of what I'm going to be doing is reading ones that I've never posted anywhere, because those ones have been online for years. And it was supposed to be like, I'm advertising the book that's to come. If you like this, stay tuned. And there's more of these, and just buy the, I never did it. But I had written a lot more of these. This is a file directory on my computer of things I never posted. And this isn't the complete file directory. I didn't want to peruse my computer live and go through all these different, but above this one, this is most of them, but above it is a Word document that's probably 50 pages long that has shorter ones that I didn't feel like were complete. These ones are pretty much complete. Maybe I need to format them a little bit, or, check for, typos and things. Maybe I need to tidy some of them up, but those ones are all complete. But above it is a Word document that has more incomplete essays, journals about this, and exchanges with physicians, email correspondence back and forth with physicians, which I might read. I'm not sure if that would be violating sort of personal, at least etiquette, if not breaching of kind of legal confidence. But what's important about those email exchanges is if you come informed, if you show up informed to your appointments and your facts contradict the fictions held deeply egotistically by your physician, they are going to defend what appears to be a cult. Like if you think David Koresh was suspicious and creepy, just bring facts that take stabs at a physician's ego, that contradict their assumptions, and the correspondence is, deeply disturbing. And so I might share some of that, or out of context a little bit, or within context, but de-identify it, something like that. Also at the bottom is a file directory with some additional ones of these that I probably won't read because it has very personal information about me, as if this isn't personal enough, and names of other people. So there's probably stuff that I won't read, but all of these I'll get through. My plan is to get through all of these and all of them on my website. And then in addition, I'm probably going to have guests, whether that's live or, digitally, if we can just kind of do this, and we can have a video conference with some guests, and maybe people who don't share my perspective, or maybe physicians who can offer different insights about what the job is like as opposed to the patient's perspective, and then other people who've gone through experiences like this, is why is it like this, and we can have open conversations about it. But now these entries, this series, I don't know how regularly I'm going to do it, because this is so traumatic for me. Not necessarily talking about it, but experiencing this stuff. I'm pretty sure I'm going to die, and really having horrible experiences with physicians, horrible experiences in clinics and hospitals, and the drugs and the side effects, and all of it was so bad and traumatic. And even just reading them puts me in that place again. And I go wading through that trauma in a very first person way. And I'm only going to do it on days when I feel capable of doing it. And so I don't know how often these are going to come, but over time, I plan to get through all of them. And that's really all I want to talk about for the introduction today. But I am going to show, just to show you what it's like, the topics And the tones more than the topics. I mean, you can guess what the topics are, but the tones of how I'm going to be addressing this. I'm going to show you a clip from a podcast I did. This conversation took place on September 7th, 2023, a while ago. But about halfway through, it was over 2 hours long, and about halfway through, the sort of theme of physician versus sort of MD versus PhD and healthcare and understanding of biology. This stuff came up, and I have this 5.5 minute. I mean, it's off the cuff, but I know these cuffs so well that I have thoughts just queued up all the time for this, and so I'm going to play this clip for you. And if you like it, if you find solidarity, if there's comfort in shared suffering and experiences, or there's a perspective that you're gaining that you appreciate, something like that, keep watching, stay tuned. There will be more of these. If you're offended by it, if you start you're 20 seconds in and you're like huffing and puffing and if that's like you're big bad wolfing at me, and if that's your experience, just don't watch it. It's okay. Like, well, I like what he did in his other videos. When he was talking about science, or he's talking about writing his fantasy book or whatever. But this, like that's. You don't have to like everything I do. I might like artists and musicians, and I don't have to like their cooking. You don't have to like every single thing about everybody. So if you dislike or don't connect with this, what I'm going to show you here, don't stay tuned, and that's totally okay. But I'm going to show it to you now. So this.
Go summarize glycolysis. Okay, 6 carbon backbone to 2,3 carbon pyruvates. Done.
Memorize lines and is brief, and where's the actual understanding? And so this is one of the issues I have, where I think PhDs are so essential in healthcare. It's so essential in healthcare. And I don't really want to talk about my health, but that I've had chronic illness for like, I don't know, 7 years or whatever it is now. And I've gone through, I went through Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. I have seen probably close to 200 physicians, something like that. And how many of them were good and knowledgeable and knew as much as I did about the body? 20, 25? It's weird. And so, the stuff that they say, like my recent nephrologist, I had this appointment, and there was some urine work, and I'm reading the after visit summary, the AVS that comes up in a little portal, and there's stuff we never even talked about, where there's ketones in my urine. That's because I've been on a ketogenic diet for like 5 years. That's why there's some keto. Now, it's not a severe ketogenic diet. I eat a ton of vegetables, but I always have ketones, and I have all the tests at home, ketonics, and I have all the tests, and so I measure my keto, just making sure where I am. It's sort of a mellow ketogenic diet going, 5 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. I didn't talk about this with my physician. And at the end, in the after visit portal, she's like, eat less protein. You had ketones in your diet. What are you talking about? If I were eating more protein, I would have less ketones. If I eat less protein, I'd have more ketones. They don't know stuff. And it's so remarkable to me when I go to these appointments.
Yes.
And I have these conversations with the doctors, and why do I know more? Yes, I read, because I have a condition, and so I read maybe 150 journal articles about it. How many have they read? It's exactly 0. And so what they think is true. Now, there's like at Mayo Clinic, those physicians are researchers first, really, and clinicians second. And so there are different divisions of medicine where people continue to consume the literature as it comes out. But most physicians I've encountered, it's a majority. I don't know how big of a majority, and this is my experience. This isn't from publications. This isn't validated. This is an experiential claim. But it's a majority of physicians have not read a single article since they graduated. Wow. I have these conversations, and it's remarkable to me, because a lot of them graduated in the 80s or the 90s. Like, what did we know there? We didn't know anything about metabolism. Anabolic versus catabolic metabolism, and there's this balance between mTOR and AMPK. We didn't even know that stuff. And so I have these conversations with physicians, and I'm coming in having read on this particular issue maybe 150 recent journal articles, and they haven't read anything since the 80s or 90s. And the discrepancy in knowledge of how biology works, or chemistry, biochemistry, physiology, whatever we're talking about, is stark. And I think it's the stakes. It's coming back to this idea of the stakes. What is their job?
Yeah.
Clinical care. They are not rewarded for learning, right? There's no incentive. They're not paid for learning. They're paid for how many visits can they get in. And again, there are physicians who are really good, who continue to read the literature, who have a firm grasp of statistics, which they didn't learn in medical school, but they learned in some other setting. And they're researchers, and they are just worlds beyond me in understanding. But most aren't that. And I think the importance of a PhD is to further information, to further understanding, to take whatever our current body of knowledge is,
Yeah.
wherever that frontier is, and advance it another mile, and then advance it another mile, and just have that marching frontier. It's PhDs and research MDs, and I don't know, pharmacologists, and like tons of things. But I think researchers are so necessary for the understanding of medicine and progression of medicine and efficacy of treatment, as opposed to like a Ford industrial line of how many people we can squeeze through with billing codes. How many billing codes can we affix to this part as it
Sure.
goes on the factory line? And so I think it's so important for a deep understanding of information, a
Yeah.
deep and continuous understanding of information. Not like I graduated and so I know everything there is to know about glycolysis. I'll never learn anything again. But to say, here's what I've learned so far. And my curiosity is ravenous for life, you know? And I can just read these papers and continue to update and sate my curiosity over and over and over, and further my understanding, deepen my understanding. And I think that's the realm of PhDs. And I think it's so important. And so I hope the depth continues to be a critical area of people's ambitions.
Okay, so that was it for today. Having watched that, if you're still interested in what I have to say about my personal journey through healthcare, the observations I've made, my disappointments, little failures, little successes, all of that, if you care, you find solidarity, or even if you just find contradiction, but you want the adrenaline of a conflict or something, feel free to be on the lookout for future episodes, and I hope to see you there. Only if you want to be seen. You don't have to show up to these ones. But for everybody, whether you stay tuned or not, I hope you're healthy. I hope you're doing well, and you prioritize your health. Okay.